Returning to the table soon, so that's good news. And there's the politics going on around us, of course. There are so many pressing issues America's facing right now. And what has Trump spent the last week defending himself against? That he didn't mistakenly refer to Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, as Tim Apple. Listen for yourself.
I used to say, Tim, you got to start doing it over here, and you really have. I mean, you've really put a big investment in our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
Thank you, Donald President. So this was a week ago, and he's still making excuses. Okay? He still says he did it on purpose. He was trying to save time. So why can't he just admit that he made a slip of the tongue? He lied about his wealth, about his height and his weight, the crowd size, about his bone spurs, about how many votes he got. These are all, like, in a way, insignificant. Not the bone spurs, because that kept him out of the Army. I'd go on with this, but we only have an hour show here. So why does he lie about every single thing and double down on them? What is the matter with him?
Do you know what this reminded me of? Is I was doing a radio tour one time. I wrote a book with a comedian named Michael Ian Black, and I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but you're just on radio show after radio show after radio show, and I was exhausted, and I said, Michael and I have such a great rapport with one another. And I meant rapport, and I totally screwed up, and they were making fun of me, and I was like, let's get Michael Rappaport involved. And ever since then, I always say we have a great rapport.
But that you took the joke on yourself.
Always lean into it. Ted Cruz leaning into him being the Zodiac killer. Just lean into it. We all make mistakes. It's okay. But his inability to make fun of himself is...
Why? Why can't he do that?
I would be shocked if he did come out and laugh at himself. Because, you know, a little humility goes a long way. We've all had those moments. There was a guy I used to work with whose name was Tim, and I called him Steve for whatever reason. I always thought his name was Steve. And to the point where now then the whole office called him Steve. It became this ongoing joke. We all have those moments. Right. And so I sympathize with him, especially being pregnant. I don't remember anybody's names. I can barely remember the names on this show.
Before he was...
I think two things. Number one, this cannot be Trump being tired, because between executive time and golfing, it can't be, blaming it on exhaustion.
No.
But remember, everything Trump has, everything Trump does, because he is a narcissist, is called Trump. Yeah. So, of course, he thinks the guy's name is Tim Apple. And the CEO of Lockheed is Marilyn Lockheed. It's Trump Hotel, Trump Airlines, Trump Steak, Trump Vodka, Trump,
Trump Water.
Trump Mar-a-Lago.
But I think that the position has made him crazier, frankly. Because when he was on this show years ago, I must have told the story already, because everybody knows when Ivanka was here with him, he said on this show, he said, oh, she's so beautiful, something like that. If she wasn't my daughter, I'd be dating her, something like that. Yeah. And I said, who are you, Woody Allen? And he actually thought that was funny. He actually laughed at that. And that's why I had no idea he was going to be such a bad president, because he seemed to have a little more a little bit of a sense of humor, and now he doesn't.
Well, he hosted Saturday Night Live also, right? So he has been able to poke fun at himself, but lately he can't, and he's been a notorious liar. I think the Washington Post last calculated his lies as of December 30th, so it's been quite a while. But he's made 7,645 false or misleading claims over 710 days.
Can you imagine having that job?
I know, counting them, right?
I mean, I hope that person's getting hardship pay.
I know,
And then Sarah Sanders lies on top of his lies. So they just double the lies.
But of all the misstatements, this is one that you just kind of have to laugh about.
Silly.
I mean,
it's pathetic.
This can't be a serious story. I mean, we can laugh about the fact that he doesn't have a lot of humility in these moments and can just laugh at himself. And I think he would be so funny if he were able to laugh, because there's so many statements that he makes that you could walk it back and make a joke about.
Abby, it's a serious story, because he's a liar, and he's in the position that he's in. Nobody knows what the truth is from him. We can't rely on him ever telling the truth. He's the president of the country.
I'm just saying with Tim Apple, that's one you can just
I know, but he doesn't laugh at it. That's the serious
None of our lives
part.
are going to change based off him calling Tim Cook or Tim Apple.
No, but I think her point is, look, if he lies about such stupid, insignificant things that we should be laughing at, what doesn't he lie about? How does the country know the difference when the president of the United States is telling or telling a lie when he lies about even the most insignificant things?
I think what Abby's trying to say, though, is this isn't new. Like, the fact that he lies a lot isn't new. We knew that during the election. We're 2.5+ years in. Like, okay, he's going to lie about something as stupid as Tim Cook being Tim Apple, which, by the way, Tim Cook has leaned into it. He put the Apple emoji as his Twitter account name now.
Well, he has a sense of humor.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, but it's like, oh, and there's gambling in Casablanca and water's wet. Trump lies. Breaking news on ABC's The View this morning.
It's not about that.
But it's not about breaking news.
Why it's horrible. It's
whether
serious.
we know it or not, and I agree with you, we've known it all along. Yeah. It still doesn't make it normal, and it still doesn't make it acceptable.
Explain that to the 46. Explain that to the 46% that approve of the job he's doing right now.
I can't explain anything to them.
You know?
Let's do this story. A lot of Democrats are calling for Trump's impeachment. But Speaker Nancy Pelosi isn't one of them. She just told the Washington Post that he's, quote unquote, he's just not worth it. She says it will divide the country unless there's bipartisan support. A lot of Democrats disagree with her. What saith the group?
I think you're right.
Everybody agrees with her? Sonny, you said you didn't.
I don't agree.
It's okay, ma'am.
No, I don't agree. You know, I think that the House has to do its job, regardless if it doesn't go anywhere. And I think, you know, we all know that when you impeach a president, the House votes to impeach, but then the trial is held by the Senate. And because the House is run by Democrats, the House would likely impeach if they find high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right.
The Senate would never convict him.
Not at this point.
At this point. I don't think at any point, honestly, because I think it's so partisan right now. So the Republicans are in charge of the Senate. It will go nowhere. But that doesn't mean that the House shouldn't do its job and make sure that the people of the United States feel confident that at least one branch will do the job.
There's one way to get Trump out of the White House. Democrats realize you got to win. You got to win in 2020. It's as simple as that. And I think what Nancy Pelosi is doing is she's being the adult in the room, and I think she genuinely cares about the success of the Democratic Party. And she saw what happened to Republicans that focused on this under Bill Clinton, and that wasn't a winning strategy for them.
After the GOP impeached Clinton in 1998, his approval rating went to 73% because people felt sorry for him.
There you go.
A word to the wise is sufficient.
It was an impeachment election, though, in the midterms, and you have Rashida Tlaib saying impeach Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Veronica Escobar, Joe Nuggizi, and I think what Sonny is saying is accurate in the sense that there's a whole constituency that does want impeachment to go forward. But I will say this quote from her: "Our country is great. It's a great country. Our founders gave us the strongest foundation, and the challenges we have faced, we can withstand anything." I love that messaging, and I love that messaging from Nancy Pelosi, because it's not that America's garbage. So the fact that Nancy Pelosi is saying things that's adhering to people like me means that she's playing some pretty smart politics.
Listen, she also left herself some wiggle room, and her quote is, unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path, meaning impeachment. Look, remember, you know, we all have the memory, those of us that are old enough, of the impeachment against Clinton for sex, basically perjuring himself over sex. I think what she's saying is, we are not going to impeach Donald Trump over paying hush money to a stripper. Now, if we find out that he's compromised by Russia, that he's a Russian asset, I assure you that falls under the something compelling and overwhelming.
And high crimes and misdemeanors. Yeah, but to Sonny's point, will the Republicans even go for it then?
I don't know.
They keep,
and that's the thing, you know, do you get a president out by voting? Of course, that's part of our process, but the Constitution is also very much so a part of our process, and the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure that we were protected as the American people against things like high crimes and misdemeanors.
Will you be satisfied, Sonny, if Mueller comes out and there isn't a link between Trump and Russia and the collusion?
I will be satisfied when the process works the way the process is supposed to work. So whether that be the Mueller report, whether that be
the Southern
District of New York, whether that be the constitutional process, I am a believer in the Constitution. I am a believer in law. I am a believer in justice. And I am a believer in process and the American people.
Okay. All right. Coming up, we want to talk about the tragic plane crash in Ethiopia. Should those planes still be allowed in the air? Because the United States has not grounded them, even though a lot of countries around the world